Bride horrified when she caught her mother-in-law wearing her wedding dress. Wedding dress shopping is one of the highlights of preparing for a wedding. You get to try on a multitude of dresses until you find yourself saying yes to the dress. For one bride-to-be, she had been preparing for her wedding day for a while. As she loved her fiancé dearly, she wanted to work on building a closer relationship with his mother. They had not gotten on that well from the start, but she figured with time, they would learn to love one another. However, it didn't quite work out as she had hoped. Tracy and her fiancé had decided to get married in Colombia. They had spent a lot of time finding the perfect venue, inviting all their close family and friends, and for Tracy, finding the perfect dress. Gina, her fiancé's mother-in-law, was not thrilled by her son's choice of bride and decided to criticize every decision Tracy made regarding the wedding. Everyone hopes to have that fairy tale love story, and for Tracy and her fiancé, who shall be called Rick, it definitely appeared that they did. Both Tracy and Rick are heavy social media users, and each time they went on vacation or shared a romantic moment, they would post a quick photo of it. Rick had found the woman of his dreams in Tracy, and the feeling was mutual. That was why it was so hard for her to understand why Rick's mother did not accept and love her like a daughter. Finding that perfect dress is no easy feat. For some brides, they have to try on hundreds of them to find the one that embodies their wedding day style. Tracy had her eyes on a dress by designer Galia Lahab. The dresses produced by the designer were known to be in the $10,000 range, which Tracy was prepared to pay. After all, getting married is one of those monumental days of your life, and you want to look your best. That price tag bothered Rick's mom, though. She thought it was an obscene amount of money to spend on a dress he will only wear once. This couple had decided to have a very extravagant wedding. Not only would it be in Colombia, but the venue and Tracy's engagement ring were on the higher end of the spectrum. Rick wanted Tracy to have the best of everything. That meant a diamond-encrusted ring and a beach wedding. Tracy threw herself into planning the big day, and while she asked Rick's mother if she would like to be involved, she did not show much interest. All she continued to say was that they were spending too much money. Tracy was rather upset that she did not show more interest. Neither Rick nor Tracy are Colombian, which confused Gina, Rick's mom. She could not wrap her head around the fact that they wanted to get married in South America, as she believed that the language barrier would cause problems for everyone. Then there was the cost that each guest would have to budget for if they wanted to attend. For example, it's not a cheap destination to get to like Mexico. Gina made her concerns known and became annoyed when she was not listened to. In her mind, her son did not care about what his mother thought. Tracy did her best to get to know Gina. She would invite her for some mother-daughter bonding sessions, like getting manicures. Gina was not interested. When Rick was around, she would pretend to be nice to Tracy, but as soon as he left the room, Gina would drop the act. There was one issue that was preventing Gina and Tracy from getting along. It was something that Tracy had tried to address, but Gina would not let it go. Gina was upset that she now had to share her beloved son Rick with Tracy. For years, it had just been Rick and Tracy. Gina's relationship with Rick was a bit of an odd one. She doted on him and always wanted to hold his hand in public. In some instances, she would even sit herself down on Rick's lap. Tracy found their close-knit relationship to be a little too close sometimes. This mom and son needed some time apart. With the wedding day approaching and Rick being tied up with planning, Gina began to get upset. Tracy did not want her help, and she asked Rick to explain this to Gina. Gina seemed to have listened to her son because she started being kinder to Tracy and did not talk about the wedding plans anymore. Tracy was relieved that she and her mother-in-law appeared to be at peace finally. Naturally, Gina was just biding her time for a major confrontation. Rick's mother would always be an important part of his life. Tracy was glad that he understood the need for boundaries, though. She wanted to be the main woman in his life. It seemed like Rick and Gina were now a bit distant from each other. She would not dote on him in public the way she once did, or sit in his lap. Tracy was thrilled to feel like she had her fiancé to herself finally. To symbolize the start of the next part of their lives, Tracy and Rick had decided to purchase a home together before the wedding. They were excited to have Gina over to see it. As soon as Gina exited the car and looked at the house, Tracy saw her face cloud over. Gina did not have anything kind to say. She criticized the facade and found problems with the interior. Nothing had changed. Gina was back to her old self. Once more, Gina decided to comment on the engagement ring that Rick had chosen for Tracy. It was a simple 3-stone ring and featured a large moissanite rather than a diamond. Weddings and houses are expensive, so Rick and Tracy had decided that they wanted to save their money for those, rather than an expensive engagement ring. Gina did not seem to understand that the stones weren't diamond and kept commenting on the cost. Now that Gina was on a roll, she turned her attention to the house itself. It was a beautiful 2-story family home. Gina claimed that Tracy and Rick were simply trying to show the neighborhood how much money they had. It was tasteless, and she thought that Rick would have been better than this. In an effort to defend herself, Tracy kept trying to draw attention to the fact that it was a starter home and they had gotten it for a steal. The parting remark that Gina decided to end with was one regarding Tracy's weight. She thought that Tracy was a bit on the heavier side, and if she wanted to look her best on the wedding day, she would need to shed some serious pounds. Gina then complimented herself on her own figure. It was like Gina was competing for her own son's hand. Tracy was offended and slightly weirded out by the relationship her soon-to-be husband had with his mother. For many years, Gina had imagined the kind of woman her son Rick would end up with. She had wanted someone slender and who was less headstrong than herself. Tracy, in Gina's mind, was none of those things. While Tracy had made numerous attempts to ingratiate herself to Gina, there was simply no pleasing her. No matter what, Gina would find something to criticize about her. She was ready to give up and cut off contact with Ricky's mom. After Gina had finished her tirade about everything that was wrong with Tracy, Rick decided to give his mom some space. They had just purchased a bunch of furniture, which needed to be assembled. As Tracy helped to put the pieces together, she could feel herself calming down. That was when she noticed that the house was suspiciously quiet. Where had Gina gone? Tracy wandered out of the room she was in and over to the main bedroom. There were sounds coming from the bathroom attached to the bedroom. As Tracy entered, she could see Gina in the mirror trying to put her wedding dress on. Her future mother-in-law was trying to take her place as the bride, or at least that is how she felt. Tracy was terrified that Gina would somehow rip or ruin the dress and rushed into the bathroom. She told her to stop and take the dress off immediately. It was official. Gina was stuck in the designer dress that Tracy had paid over $10,000 for. She asked her to stand still, as the dress had been made from very delicate material. Gina listened to her as she did not want her son to see her, but unfortunately things went from bad to worse. There were some mesh inserts in the dress and they were prone to tearing, as the dress was only supposed to be worn for one day. Tracy had loved this feminine touch. Eventually, Gina managed to wriggle out of the dress, but not without damaging it beyond repair. Those delicate inserts that had made the dress so special were torn. The zipper down the side of the dress had broken, and to make it even worse, Gina had left a big brown footprint on the white material. All Tracy could do was stare at her ruined dress in shock. Not even 10 minutes ago, it had been perfect. Stunned, Tracy could only stare at her once lovely dress and Gina. She could not think beyond this moment, and there was really just one question she needed answering. Why? Looking at Gina, she waited expectantly for any excuse that would make sense. Why would Gina do something to ruin her wedding day deliberately? It was a special day for her son as well. Didn't she want him to be happy? Gina's response would not surprise Tracy. Gina just looked at Tracy and began to explain that it was a matter of sizing. As Gina is so much thinner than Tracy, she figured if the dress fit her loosely, then it would definitely fit Tracy. This was not the excuse Tracy was looking for. Obviously, the dress would fit her. It had been made to order for her body. The dress had fit like a glove when she had tried it on. Gina was just making up a reason. It was clear to Tracy and Rick, who had come running into the bathroom, what was going on. Gina had some kind of odd fascination with wanting to be the bride herself. She was playing dress-up and imagining that she was getting married. There was even a bouquet that she had been planning to hold to complete the look. This was not the end of it though, as Gina had one last thing she wanted to do. With the ruined dress, Tracy thought Gina would do the right thing and offer to either fix the damage or pay for a new one. She did not. Tracy gave Rick an ultimatum. He would need to remove his mother from the wedding party and cease contact with her regarding all wedding activities. He agreed, but then Tracy found out that Gina was still planning to come to the wedding. It was too much, and Tracy decided to call everything off. For the sake of their marriage, Tracy and Rick made an extra effort to recover from the awkward encounter. Rick has had to cut his mom out of his life, but Gina can be seen lurking around their home trying to make contact with Rick. We hope that Rick and Tracy manage to sort things out, and Gina learns the boundaries between a mother and her son. We're sure that this couple will pull through and eventually have the wedding of their dreams.